Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Understanding Scale webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answers section in the Zoom panel, and I will go through and answer any of those questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that's going to cover everything that we're going to be discussing in today's class. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, you can reach out to our support department and they will be happy to answer any questions you might have. So again, today's class is on understanding scale. And what we're going to be basically going over today is we're going to be looking at how to look at some detailed information about scales in Envisioneer. We're going to be looking at how to adjust the view properties. We're also going to be looking at how to insert views of various scales. We're also going to be looking at how to print to set scales. And then we're also going to chat about just standard paper sizes that are typically used in a construction set of documents. So first, let's talk about view properties. So right now I have a drawing open up on my screen. And in Envisioneer, there are two drawing environments. You're going to have the model view where you construct and edit your model. And then there is the worksheet views where you create your working drawings. Each view is a scaled environment. This is the ratio of units on paper to units in real life. As an example, a 1/4 inch equals 1 foot scale means that for every foot of actual model, it is going to be represented by a 1/4 inch on paper. So the default scale that we use in Envisioneer is that 1/4 inch is equal to 1 foot scale. To check this, you can go up and you can go to View, and you can select View Manager. And in the View Manager, what you're going to get is the View Manager dialog box. And in this View Manager dialog box, there's going to be a couple of different sections to it. So the first thing you're going to see is on the left-hand side, there are going to be your default views. These are going to be all the views that are currently available in the document that you're working with. The first one is going to be our model view, and we can see that it says model, and when it's selected, it says the current view is model. When we select a floor plan sheet, again, it just changes the name and it just lets you know what the sheet is. As you adjust any of these on the right-hand side, it's going to populate with what that view is, the name of it, and the actual scale. So here we can see when we select model, it gives me the model name, and I can type in a different name if I want to in here. So if I don't like the word model, I want to add in something else, I can change the name here. We can see that the type is set to model view. So this is going to be where we draw in our model view. This is where all our 3D components are going to be created. When you select a worksheet, again, you can change the name to be whatever you want. And again, the type is displayed for you here, as well as the scale. And model views and sheet views are typically always going to be set at the same scale in Envisioneer. You would adjust the actual scale of the elements as you bring them in. And we're going to look at that in just a little bit. So not only can you control the actual naming convention and the scale of each of these sheets, you can also adjust the actual print properties. And under the print properties, this is where you're going to be able to control what printer or plotter is going to be used for that particular sheet. So if I'm printing out my worksheet, so if I'm printing out my floor plan, my elevations, my details, and my site plan, do I have a set printer or plotter in my office that I'm always going to be printing to? And you can set that up here. You can select any one of these options. It can be an actual live printer where, again, you're going to be printing on paper, or it could be a PDF writer. So a PDF creator that's going to create an actual file for you that you would then send off to be printed out or send off to your clients. There are, again, a bunch of different PDF creators out there that you can download for free, and there are some that you can purchase as well. Once you select whatever printer that it is that you want to use, I'm just going to grab the PDF 995. I can control the paper size. By default, we use a 24 by 36 size drawing sheet in our templates. So I would want to make sure that I'm using the correct paper size, which would be an Arch D. Again, that's going to contain that 24 by 36 inch size sheet. I'm going to change it to be landscape. And when I'm doing an actual printout, I will use the window option and I will create a window around the PDF itself. But in the print scaling, this is where I can control what the print scale is going to be for this sheet. So again, I want to print to scale and I want it set at that 1/4 inch. I'm just going to click cancel on here. And the one thing I do want to point out is things like text and dimensions will scale on the screen when you change the, things like text and dimensions on the screen will not change in actual size because they are actually specified in real world units. So whereas the model on your screen is created using units that are only proportional to the real world units. So for example, if you insert a text that is a 1/2 inch text height, the text, when it is printed out on paper, will be a 1/2 inch in height, no matter what you set the scale to be. So if you are going to be reducing the size of your prints or your drawings to fit on a smaller sheet, you may want to reduce the size of your text or your fonts as well. So again, as an example here, when I click on this text style here, it's using the text style of dimensions. And when I click on dimensions and I double click on it, it's using a text height of 1/8 of an inch. So this is going to be 1/8 of an inch no matter what I scale my sheet to. If I held up a scale to that printed drawing, all my text will be 1/8 of an inch high. Sorry, any text that's using this dimensions text style will be 1/8 of an inch high. So click cancel, cancel, and cancel. And so now we're just going to talk about inserting scaled views onto a worksheet. So when you're inserting views into a worksheet view, you need to determine an appropriate scale for each view. At full scale, a floor plan would not fit on a piece of paper. So the drawing is always going to be scaled down in size. The scale, again, is going to be the ratio of the units on paper to units in the real world. And again, we use the 1/4 inch scale as our default. In the document that I'm going to be sending you, there are a list of different scales for different types of drawings that you could be creating. As an example, when you are inserting elevations, elevations can be set to 1/8 of an inch scale or a 1/4 inch equals a foot scale. Your floor plans, pardon me, your floor plans are going to be usually at a 1/4 inch scale, but again, you can adjust as needed. Sections are going to be typically at a 1/2 inch scale. Details will be at a full inch scale. And those are, again, just some examples. That's not an actual rule. You can adjust and add in your views at whatever scale you feel is going to be best represented for the sheet size you're working with. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So to insert a view onto a sheet at a specific scale, we want to use the Define Smart View tool to do this. And it's going to quickly insert a view of our model that we have created into a worksheet. And you can do this on any of the sheets that you have available. Again, we're using the Cadsoft template here, so we're going to see a floor plan, an elevation, a detail, and a site plan. You could have more options in here, or you could add more if you need to. We're going to go into our floor plan sheet, and under our floor plan sheet, we're going to add in our actual floor plan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up and we're going to select, if you like to use menus, you can select Insert, Smart Views, and Define Smart View. If you like to use the buttons, you can simply go underneath the Insert tab and then select the drop down beside Smart Views and just select the Define Smart View. Once you have the Define Smart View window open, it's essentially allowing you to control what it is you're going to be adding in to your actual sheets. So in here, we can set that we want to be using a plan view. I want it to be my ground floor, and I want it at 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. You can adjust the sizing in here, and there's a bunch of different options already pre-populated for you, and you can use any one of these options in your design. We're going to keep our set to the 1/4 inch scale, and I'm just going to use the view filter just to turn some things off. I'm going to turn off the terrain. I'm going to go in and say display none on the foundation and the second floor. And then I'm just going to simply say, okay. What you see is what you get in this view. So we want to make sure that everything is zoomed into the correct view size here. So everything is visible within that area. And then all I have to do is simply select Insert as a drawing. When I click Insert, that plan view is now going to be inserted into my sheet. And I can see how that view is going to look. Now, again, this is at a 1/4 inch scale. And if I right click in my view area, I can see view properties. And my view is also set to a 1/4 inch. So everything is matching up in here. And that is typically the way you would want to do this. If I change the actual scale of the image or the drawing that I'm inserting, I don't need to change the scale of my worksheets. I would still keep it at a 1/4 inch scale. I'm only changing the scale of what's being inserted. Once I have this inserted, I can now go up and I can select the file print option, and I can start to print out a scaled view. So each view window in your project has its own set of print properties, such as the printer plotter selection, the page size, the scaling, and the print quality. These are the settings that are used when you use the print tool to print your current view. So we touched on this briefly. So we're going to go back up now, and we're just going to go up and we're going to select File, and we're going to select Print. And when I select the File Print option, here we can see that it's using that PDF 995 that I selected. I can see that it's set to RHD. Right now it's set to all extents. Well, I actually want this to be set to window. Once I select window, I can now select the window button, and I can now define where I want the window to be for my smart view. So right now I want to create a window from this red arrow to this red arrow. And what that does is it basically just centers that view for us within that drawing sheet. And we can still see that everything is set to be at a 1/4 inch scale. I want my colors to be print as black, and I do want to print line weights because I am working with a working drawing sheet. So I want to take advantage of those line weights. Once I'm happy with that, all I have to do is simply select print. And now a PDF is going to be created of that view for me. I'm just going to go over to elevations, and we're just going to save this to my desktop. And we're just going to go and select save. So that's going to save that PDF to the desktop for us. And once it's done, what you're going to get is a PDF view that looks like this. And this is what you would actually send to your clients, and you'll be able to see the actual views. And I'm just going to try and zoom in here. And what you're going to see here is, again, all the different components are now going to be to the correct scale. And if you actually put a scale up to this drawing and you measured out your 1/4 inch equals a foot, each of these would be to the correct scale. And again, your text would be set at 1/8 of an inch high. Let's delete out this elevation here. So I'm just going to go delete. And let's say I want to insert all of my elevations on this sheet. So I can't make all of my elevations fit on this sheet because there's going to be at a 1/4 inch scale because there's not enough room. So what I can do is I can go up and say define smart view, and I can select elevation. And what I can do here is I'm just going to go in and make sure that I have roofs turned on. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to zoom out a couple of clicks just to make sure that everything is visible. So again, what you see is what you get. So we'll zoom out when needed. And we're going to go up and we're just going to insert this as a drawing, but I'm not going to do it at a 1/4 inch. I'm going to insert it at 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to say insert. And now what I'm going to get is my elevations, but they're not going to be at 1/8 of an inch scale. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to add in the rest of my elevations at that same scale. So we're just going to go in and say right elevation. We're going to go up, we're going to say 1/8 of an inch scale. And we're going to make sure that we have everything turned on that we want. And we're going to zoom out a couple of clicks, like so. And then this should be hidden line. And we're going to say insert. And then attached to our cursor will be our next elevation. And you would do that for each of your actual views. So again, we're doing an elevation. We're going to do rear. We're going to do 1/8 of an inch. We're going to make sure it's set to hidden line. And we're going to make sure that we have the roof option turned on. Zoom out. And then insert. So I've inserted these at a different scale compared to what my section is. So my section in here is actually inserted at a 1/4 inch scale. I would still print this out. So I would still go up to File and Print, and I would still print this out using my PDF 995. Actually, I'm going to use the cute PDF option here. We're still going to be printing it on an RHD size sheet. We're still going to use landscape. We're going to use window and window. And again, we're just going to use the little guides here. I'm going to click on those 2 points. And we're going to say, again, print colors as black. We're going to print the scale. And again, we're still going to use the 1/4 inch scale. Even though these views were inserted at an 1/8 inch scale, our actual sheet is set to the 1/4 inch scale. So we're going to leave that at 1/4 inch. And then when we're going to go in, we're going to say print line weights, and we're going to say print. And again, it's now going to go through and create a print of that smart view. And what I would typically do in a scenario like this, where I have differing scales, my title block will say what the scale is of this sheet. I could actually go in and just change it so that it says whatever the majority of it is, or I can have it say refer to sheet, so just RTS, and then underneath each view, I will actually add in the scale. So in here, I would go up to Tools, Text, and Text, and I would just call this cap locks front elevation, and then just press Enter, and then scale, I would do 1/8 of an inch is equal to 1 foot 0 inches. And I would say, okay. So that way I know that this is the front elevation and it's at a different scale. I can even mix and match text. So maybe I want the scale to be at that size, but I want the actual name to be a little bit larger. So I'll go in here and I'll just delete out that text. And I typically break these apart. You could try and add them together, but I'd like to break them apart. And then what I would do here is just duplicate this text up. And then go into the properties of this one. We're going to call it front elevation. And instead of using the marks option, I'm just going to use the, we're going to go dimensions. Let's do notes. I think one of these, yeah. So there's a 1/4 inch. And then we can say, okay. And now we can see that just the scale of that portion of the text has changed. And then I can move this around. And we're just going to go in and say move like so. So you can take this and you can copy it, duplicate it to different parts of your sheets. You can, again, just edit it so that it's using a different size. So we used dimensions. We'll reduce it down to, I would say that's probably a more appropriate size. And then I would just duplicate it. So we're going to go here, and then we'll do one here and one here as well. And then just change the name. So this one's going to be right elevation. And then this one will be rear elevation. So you can go in, adjust the sizing of the text that's being used, again, just to make it more appropriate for the sheets that you're working with. And then that will just denote that those are at a different scale. And if we take a look at the PDF that was created, we're going to save that to our working drawings, smart views. We'll say save. And then that should open up for us, and we can see how that PDF looks as well. The next thing I want to talk about is just paper sizes. So in North America, designers use paper sizes defined by the American National Standards Institute, or ANSI. This series of paper sizes is based on the standard 8.5 inch by 11 inch letter size, which is also known as ANSI A. In addition to the ANSI system, there is a corresponding series of paper sizes used for architectural purposes. This series is usually abbreviated to ARCH. And in the list, or in the PDF that I'm going to be sending you, there's going to be a list of all the different common paper sizes and their actual sizes so that you know what each sheet size should be. But again, most typically when you're working with a set of architectural drawings, you're going to be working with an ARCH C to an ARCH F size sheet. And that ranges from your 18 by 24 all the way up to a 30 by 42. There are some instances where you will need the ANSI sizes, so ANSI A and ANSI B, which will be your 8.5 by 11 or your 11 by 17. And again, it's all going to be dependent on what you need to print to, how big your actual drawings are, and what you need to submit for permits. So all of these options can be adjusted and changed, again, to match who you're sending drawings to and what you need to represent in those drawings. So that covers everything that I wanted to talk about in today's class about understanding scale. So I am just going to open up the questions and answers section. So if you do happen to have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in, and I will do my best to answer those for you. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that, again, is going to cover everything that we've talked about. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, you can contact our support department. You can reach us through either email or phone, and we are open from Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be happy to help you out with any questions you might have. Perfect. Well, there doesn't appear to be any questions, so I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. So thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.